Disgraced former MAGA Republican Congressman and Trump Attorney General nominee Matt Gaetz has now publicly announced that he is joining a major conservative news network to start his own show, and we have to talk about it. But before we do, if you end up liking this video and you want to support the channel, please be sure to hit the like, subscribe, and alert bells before you go. All right, friends, as you know, Matt Gaetz, former Republican congressman from Florida, was tapped to be Donald Trump's attorney general nominee before ultimately withdrawing his own name after it appeared that he was going to receive a sufficient amount of pushback from Republican senators to ultimately tank his nomination. Pam Bondi, a more competent, more qualified, but still devoutly loyal MAGA Republican, has been named as his successor to be attorney general. He also resigned from Congress, and he said he wasn't going to go back to Congress even though he recently won an election. So in theory, he could have resigned from the 118th Congress and then, joined the 119th Congress, but he said he wasn't going to do that. He was also credibly investigated for sexual misconduct. We'll get to all of that. Instead, he's going to One America News, one of the most deranged right-wing networks in existence.
I could not be more excited to join the One America News family. The best reporting, the best analysis, and the most in-depth coverage of the Trump administration is going to come from our team. I've got the sources, I've got the insights, and there is such a spirit of optimism to unlock the opportunity of America. There's no place that's going to cover it better than One America News. I could not be.
Yeah. So, for those who are wondering what the hell is going to happen to Matt Gaetz, because he's young, he's ambitious, he's got a lizard cunning when it comes to, attention and that sort of thing. We said it wasn't going to be the last of Gaetz, and we said that there was even a possibility that he could join the Trump administration on down the road in a non-Senate confirmable position. But I also said it was possible that he was going to join some sort of right-wing media apparatus, and it looks like he finally made his choice, joining not Fox, not Newsmax, but OAN. Yikes. I imagine the Matt Gaetz show on OAN is going to provide us with a lot of content to discuss starting next year. I said that Matt Gaetz was under investigation for credible allegations of sexual misconduct, and that's true. The bipartisan Republican-led House Ethics Committee has been investigating Matt Gaetz for 3 years, okay? And reportedly, this was the source of Matt Gaetz' tension with former Republican Speaker Kevin McCarthy, because once McCarthy became Speaker, apparently he didn't do enough, in Matt Gaetz' estimation, to kill the investigation into Gaetz, and that was the source of their animosity. And I have a clip from Kevin McCarthy in just a second. But once Gaetz was tapped to be Trump's attorney general nominee, he quit Congress the same day. He resigned the same day. But it was also just a few days before the House Ethics Committee was going to vote on whether or not to release its 3-year-long investigation, basically release a report summarizing its 3-year-long investigation into Gaetz. So he attempted to preempt that by simply resigning from Congress and then saying, we have no jurisdiction over me, there's no point in releasing this very politically damaging report. And then Gaetz and his allies, including Republican Speaker Mike Johnson, tried to pressure the House Ethics Committee to bury the report. And this was when he was still Trump's nominee to be attorney general. They were doing everything in their power to conceal whatever is in that report from the American people and from their own Republicans in the Senate in order to allow Gaetz to become attorney general. But ultimately that failed in the sense that Gaetz withdrew his nomination. However, there was still a vote about whether or not to release the report of Matt Gaetz by the House Ethics Committee, and Republicans voted it down. They protected Matt Gaetz. They covered his ass. 206 to 198. House Republicans just blocked the release of the Matt Gaetz ethics report, which looked into criminal allegations, including sex with a minor. A shame. This was the final vote. An absolutely disgraceful maneuver by morally bankrupt Republicans in order to prevent Gaetz from suffering any sort of political consequences should he attempt to seek office in the future, elected office or appointed office in the Trump administration. Even now, they cover this guy's ass. So much for the party of Christ and the party of family values and the party of personal responsibility, right? Imagine the shoe were on the other foot. Imagine if it had been a disgraced Democratic congressman who had been investigated by a Democratic-led bipartisan House Ethics Committee and who had been credibly accused of sexual misconduct. Do you think Mike Johnson and elected Republicans in the House of Representatives would vote against releasing that report, or do you think they would demand public accountability and transparency? We know what they would do, but because they're profound hypocrites, they say one thing and do another as soon as it's convenient for them. It's all about political expedience, and they're shameless with it because they know that they're not going to be punished for it politically, and that's really at the end of the day all they care about. Which is why the only way to teach Republicans a lesson is to punish them at the ballot box, beat them in every damn election. Let them know that if they continue to be hypocrites and to behave unethically and corruptly, they're just going to lose elections. They just won one, so they're feeling, they're feeling themselves. They're feeling empowered, and why shouldn't they? Because we have made a choice that these things apparently don't matter nearly as much as we think they should, or some of us think that they should. I mentioned Kevin McCarthy. Well, speaking of Matt Gaetz, former Republican Speaker Kevin McCarthy recently appeared on Maria Bartiromo's show on the Fox Propaganda Network, and he weighed in on Trump's cabinet nominees, including the fact that Trump nominated Matt Gaetz, and the topic turned to that. And this is what this is what McCarthy had to say, denigrating Matt Gaetz, but also trying to cover Trump's ass.
Get all that done. Do not burden him with the Biden era problems and let him govern the way the American public wants him to.
Kevin, what is your opinion or reaction to President Trump initially naming Matt Gaetz as the AG?
Well, no one thought that would pass. I blame Matt Gaetz for lying to the president about his ethics report. People know that that's why he made the motion against me. People know that's why he's not capable of even staying in Congress. He needed an excuse to resign because the ethics report would be done in a couple days, and that's unfortunate. But it's a better Congress today of where they're going forward.
Well, you just heard Stephen Miller say that this is going to be President Trump's biggest domestic policy win in 50 years.
So I will say, listen, obviously, Kevin McCarthy is being obsequious when it comes to Trump. Trump has been credibly accused of sexual misconduct, credibly accused of rape. He was found liable for sexual abuse and defamation by a New York jury, and the presiding judge clarified that the jury meant that he raped E. Jean Carroll. So Donald Trump has no credibility on this issue. Donald Trump should have vetted Matt Gaetz if he thought that this would be a liability for Gaetz. So it is Donald Trump's fault as well. And Kevin McCarthy, again, wants to have his cake and eat it too. But I will say I agree with McCarthy in the sense that that is the reason that Gaetz resigned from Congress when he did, because he was hoping to preempt the release of this report. Fortunately for Matt Gaetz, MAGA Republicans are so unprincipled that they covered his ass anyway, even though he's not even in the running to be Attorney General. It's absolutely shameless stuff. And we see the grift in full time, that this is what Matt Gaetz is going to do with his free time now. And certainly he does have the contacts, right? I imagine there's going to be some very disturbingly entertaining segments coming from the Matt Gaetz show, perhaps even, even at his own expense, right? Kind of becoming, the butt of his own jokes, the way that George Santos, disgraced former MAGA Republican, is as well. I don't know what's going to happen in the future. I imagine that Matt Gaetz will continue to be a major presence in right-wing politics. Right now, it seems to be from the media angle, but I could see him going back into politics in a more formal position later on down the road. But that's where we are. We finally have the continuation of the Matt Gaetz story. In the meantime, let me know what you think in the comments.